Hola y saludos del profe Adams. Hoy vamos a hablar de los pronombres de objeto, o en inglés, object pronouns. Lesson goals. Review indirect and direct object pronouns in Spanish. Review their placement in a Spanish sentence. Review how to use both in a Spanish sentence together. Review the pronouns that are used after prepositions. La definición de los pronombres. As you know, pronouns or pronombres are words that take the place of a noun. Pronouns that receive the action of a verb are called object pronouns, or pronombres de objeto. Take a look at these examples. Here are some subject pronouns. Ella es mi amiga. She is my friend. Nosotros vamos a la playa. We are going to the beach. Here are some examples of object pronouns. ¿Me la compraste para mí? You bought me it? No lo sé. I don't know it. There are two kinds of object pronouns. Indirect object pronouns say to whom, to what, or for whom an action is performed. These are the indirect object pronouns. Me, te, le, nos, os, les. Now, direct object pronouns say who directly receives the action of the verb. These are the direct object pronouns. Me, te, lo, la, nos, os, los, las. Lo can be used to refer to an abstract thing or idea that has no gender. ¿Vas a aceptar la oferta? Lo voy a pensar. Are you going to accept the offer? I'll think about it. Indirect and direct object pronouns come before the conjugated verb in a sentence. Let's look at 4 examples. Carla siempre me da entradas para el teatro. Ella las consigue gratis. No le voy a comprar más libros. Nunca los lee. When the verb is in an infinitive construction, object pronouns may either be attached to the infinitive or placed before the conjugated verb. Here are some examples. Vamos a darle un regalo. Or, le vamos a dar un regalo. Tienes que hablarnos de la película. Or, nos tienes que hablar de la película. Voy a hacerlo enseguida. Or, lo voy a hacer enseguida. Van a verla mañana. Or, la van a ver mañana. Did you notice that you could put the object pronouns in 2 spots? That's really up to you where you put it. When the verb is in progressive form, object pronouns may either be attached to the present participle or placed before the conjugated verb. Just like infinitives. Here are some examples. Pedro está cantándome una canción. Or, Pedro me está cantando una canción. ¿Está cantándola muy mal? Or, la está cantando muy mal. In Spanish, it is common to repeat the indirect object. Esta noche le voy a quitar la camisa al guitarrista. Les regalé boletos a mis amigos. Excelente. Do you understand how to use object pronouns? Now, let's see what happens when you have 2 of them in the same sentence. When an indirect object pronoun and a direct object pronoun are used together in a sentence, the indirect object pronoun comes first. Let's take a look. Me mandaron los boletos por correo. Me los mandaron por correo. Notice the direct object los boletos becomes the direct object los and is placed after the indirect object pronoun me. Me los. Here's another one. Te pedí un álbum de Juanes. Te lo pedí. Muy bien. Now, let's look at a special rule when both direct and indirect object pronouns are in the third person. The indirect object pronoun le and les both change to se when they are used with the direct object pronouns lo, la, los, or las. Let's watch what happens. Le da los libros a Ricardo. Se los da. Notice that when the direct object los libros becomes the direct object los and is placed before the conjugated verb, the indirect object pronoun le changes to se. Se los. Here's another example. Le enseña las invitaciones a Elena. Se las enseña. When object pronouns are attached to infinitives, participles, or commands, a written accent is often required to maintain proper word stress. Cantármela, escribiéndole, acompáñeme. Bueno, a practicar. It's your turn to practice. I'll say a sentence with a direct object. Then you repeat this sentence by saying the indirect object pronoun and the direct object pronoun together. For example, if I say, me compró la computadora, you'll say, me la compró. Ready? Te doy las llaves. Te las doy. Nos cantaron la canción. Nos la cantaron. Mis padres me prestaron $10 a mí. Mis padres me lo prestaron. Juana me mandó la foto. Juana me la mandó. Profe Adams nos enseñó la gramática a nosotros. Profe Adams nos la enseñó. Fantástico! You're making great progress. Now we're going to look at another kind of pronoun that comes after prepositions. Remember, prepositions are words that give more information about the subject or action of a sentence. Some common Spanish prepositions are a, de, en, por, and para. Prepositional pronouns are the objects of prepositions, which means they come after prepositions. If some of these pronouns look familiar, that's because all of them are the same as the subject pronouns, except me, ti, and si. These are the singular prepositional pronouns. Me, ti, usted, si, él, ella, si. And here are the plural prepositional pronouns. Nosotros, nosotras, vosotros, vosotras, ustedes, sí, ellos, ellas, sí. Let's see how prepositional pronouns work. ¿Qué piensas de ella? Ay, mi amor, solo pienso en ti. ¿Lo compraron para mí o para Javier? Lo compramos para él. To clarify or emphasize the person you're talking about, you can repeat the indirect object plus a prepositional pronoun, like this. ¿Te gusta aquel cantante? A mí me fascina. ¿A quién se lo dieron? Se lo dieron a ella. Sometimes you need to clarify or emphasize the relationship between the subject and the object of a sentence. For example, look at this sentence. José se lo regaló. Jose gave a gift, but we don't know if he gave it to himself or someone else. If he gave it to someone else, add a prepositional pronoun as you've learned. José se lo regaló a él. If Jose gave the gift to himself, add the prepositional pronoun sí plus the adjective mismo. José se lo regaló a sí mismo. Cuidado! The adjective mismo has to agree in number and gender with the subject. José se lo regaló a sí mismo. Carmen se lo regaló a sí misma. Mis hermanos se lo regalaron a sí mismos. Las chicas se lo regalaron a sí mismas. When you want to use the preposition con with the pronouns me, ti, and si, together they become the words conmigo, contigo, and consigo. Let's look at some examples. ¿Quieres ir conmigo al parque de atracciones? Laura siempre lleva su computadora portátil consigo. Some prepositions are followed by yo and tu instead of me and ti. These include entre, excepto, incluso, menos, salvo, and según. Por ejemplo, todos están de acuerdo menos tú y yo. Entre tú y yo, Juan me cae mal. Let's review what you've learned. You've learned that object pronouns can be placed before conjugated verbs, attached to infinitives, or attached to present participles. You also learned that when there are two object pronouns in the same sentence, the indirect object pronoun is first and the direct object pronoun is second. Finally, you learned the pronouns that you use after prepositions. Muy bien hecho todos. Gracias y hasta la próxima vez con Profe Adams.